What's up, everyone? Welcome to today's video. Welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. So we're going to be looking at this Hogwarts Legacy exclusivity again from a different perspective. In fact, this was based on a response that I gave to fellow content creator Alex at Podcast Now's post on Twitter, where he asked the question about what people think about this. He's actually planning to make a video on this, so I encourage you guys that you stay tuned to his channel so you can actually watch and, basically hear his opinions on all of that. So he's just looking for where people stood, and I already made my own stance known, but I then pointed out something in my response that I probably missed out on the first video, which is, what if this exclusive content was like Quidditch or something that was actually very much important to the entirety of the Hogwarts Legacy community? How would people, navigate through that? Because right now it seems that the responses that we're getting so far in terms of this exclusivity is some people are like, well, it's not really a big deal. It's just a timed exclusive for 1 year. And here's the thing. You're free to hold your opinions, and I'm not holding anybody. I'm not holding it against anybody. Honestly, I really don't care what how you engage with your video games. That's your prerogative. But I hope you're willing to be consistent on this, because the consistency is the hardest part, because you do know that Microsoft might at some point do this with beloved franchises that might be of interest to you. So if you're willing to condone it now with the Sony side, I'm hoping that you're willing to condone it from now henceforth. Now, in my case, I was actually going to backtrack on my pre-order for Hogwarts Legacy and was like, well, I'm not going to do this because Hogwarts Legacy did that. But then consistency gripped me by the throat and said, you pre-ordered another Warner Brothers game, which is Gotham Knights, and you said you were going to pre-order this game because you wanted to stay consistent. So now don't go acting like you're self-righteous because this developer or the same publisher decided on this deal, because it's not just Sony. I know we can point the finger to Sony all we want, but Warner Brothers also said, yeah, sure, we'll give you the exclusive. And I'm guessing that there's probably some mutual benefit in this agreement where both parties are benefiting from this particular exclusive. But at the end of the day, it brings up this question of, is this a ripoff or not? Is Hogwarts Legacy as a game, or is Warner Brothers ripping off their own consumers in this particular way? Because what does Sony care about the people going to be playing the game on Xbox? As long as they're able to get an exclusivity deal that will probably make their console seem a little bit more, out there and relevant or whatever it is, that's possibly it. And they'll probably make their own, consumers or customers feel like, oh yeah, we got the more superior console or whatever it is. That talk is probably going to be waning very soon. But when it comes around the other way, I don't know how people are going to react on the PlayStation side. Now, I'm not saying all PlayStation players do this. I'm a PlayStation player myself. Tom Clancy's The Division. In fact, I don't know, my Division time and playtime will probably eat the playtime on some people's entire PlayStation account. So I've played on the PlayStation for the longest time. In fact, when the new generation of consoles came out, it was the first one that I got. But in seeing this, I'm thinking to myself that this is not healthy for the gaming community at large. There seems to be a problem and a disconnect, because just a few years ago, we weren't seeing all of this. In fact, we were happy to just get a video game. There was no time for any exclusivity. Everybody wanted their games to just get to the hands of as many people as possible. But because this is a very popular franchise, we're starting to see this. And Warner Brothers did this same thing for Arkham Knight. I remember playing Arkham Knight on the PlayStation 4. For those of you who don't remember, I think there's a skin that is exclusive to the PlayStation version of Batman Arkham Knight. And so these are some of the things that you see. And if we start to condone this and say, oh, it's just a skin. Oh, it's just a map. Oh, it's just a mode. Before you know, things like huge features. God forbid Quidditch shows up and now anybody on Xbox or PC or Switch cannot play that mode for a whole entire year, and they still have to pay full price for the game. That is where the problem is. And so as much as people might be saying Sony this, Sony that, don't miss out on the fact that Warner Brothers is also in on this as a publisher of this game, and they're basically going to be ripping off their fans. Now, am I going to go back and backtrack on my pre-order? It's hard to not do so. I've not pre-ordered yet. So at this point, I could still just say, I'm not getting the game that I want. So why should I pay for it? But at the same time, it doesn't really seem like a big deal. but I want to be consistent. And this is what I'm talking about in this video, because it's a very interesting, even though it's not a, in quote, big deal, it's just a video game, right? But it's still a product, and there's a fiscal transaction that's going to be going in with that product. Now, there is something else too that we have to bring into and call into the perspective of all of this. This is how much effect, or how much this exclusivity affects the overall experience of the game. And the answer to that is, I don't think it really seems like it will have a huge effect. Some people have said it seems like it will, because it, provides you, the ability to be on some store where you can actually make purchases, and it could possibly help you level up faster and all of the above. And yes, that argument seems to be valid in some sense, but again, at the same time, it doesn't really strike at the core of the whole conversation, because again, what's really important here for many people is the fact that they want to be able to enjoy what it is that they pay for and feel like they're buying the exact same thing. Exclusivity has always been about this battle for superiority, especially from both sides. It's not like one does it and one doesn't do it, or one of them is better than the other. But here's what we're going to see. As Sony is over there whining about Call of Duty and stuff, and then on the other hand, making much of exclusives and talking with publishers and trying to even, in a sense, deter other gamers, other game developers from putting their games on, Game Pass, I think what's going to happen is, eventually they're not going to be able to maintain this position, because it will stop being profitable. I wonder how they're going to go ahead and address it. In fact, they're already dealing with it, because if Call of Duty was to make its way to Game Pass, there's basically no reason for a lot of people to stay playing, on the Xbox, especially when they can get the game for almost, for nothing in that sense. But I'm going to be keeping an eye out. I'm going to be seeing how people respond to this. But it seems like overall, there's no upheaval. A lot of the PlayStation community are like, well, it's not really a big deal, so I think they're going to go ahead and go along with it. This is one of those things that gamers probably should be raising a lot of wind over, but it's just going to blow over and it's just going to pass. And then, the next game, they're going to do it again. And maybe it's going to be too late, where they're basically cutting out DLC content and keeping it exclusive for an entire few months before the other party can play it. And keep in mind, I've actually seen this happen before. It happened in Tom Clancy's The Division 1. And I used to play on PlayStation at that time. And then I remember Ubisoft Massive and Xbox, they had this agreement where one of their DLCs came out and there was a 30-day or so hold on that DLC for PlayStation, and everybody on Xbox actually played it. And I did not appreciate that at any rate. I was so upset. But that was, that was in a different case, right? And so I don't know how many people are going to see, basically see this and experience it if it were to go the other way around. But like I said, I'm keeping an eye, on this conversation, and I really want to hear your thoughts in the comment section as well. So thanks so much for watching the video. I probably will still pre-order the game. Peace out.